Hello, I'm Fergus. I'm head brewer at Adnams, and I'm here with James, who runs the Holkham Farm estate, where we buy lots of our barley. So, James, welcome.
Welcome, Fergus. Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
what is exactly you do at Holkham? Tell us.
So yeah, I'm the farm manager. So I manage all the in-hand farming that we do on the Holkham estate. So that's growing crops, it's raising livestock, it's growing potatoes, and sort of generally managing the estate and the biodiversity and the conservation as well.
Yeah, and of course I guess I'm sure most people do know where Holkham is, but you might as well describe where it is for anyone who doesn't.
Yeah, so we're right on the northern point of the North Norfolk coast. So as north as you can get in Norfolk. So we've got. I think if you head north from us, you're sort of the Shetland Isles is the next where you get to.
Yes, good. So we've obviously been dealing with Holkham. I had to look back. It's actually since 2013 now. I think since we put that contract in place. So at the time, what we wanted to do was have a. We've always bought locally because obviously where we're situated, it makes sense for us to buy locally. But we'd never specified what growers it was coming from. It was just we'll buy local and that was it really. But I guess back in 2012, 2013, we started looking at actually having more close connections. Obviously, more close is an actual phrase. Closer connections with our growers. So we got involved with Holkham through Bortmalt, who said that actually they could supply what we needed through Holkham, which is about 50% of what we use, I think now. So the benefit from my side at the time was really that we would get visibility of where it's coming from. We would get some consistency. I think that, and also we could have some sort of way of looking at what farming practices were, and ensure that the people who are growing it were sort of aligned with how we want our sort of raw materials grown. So in terms of the environmental and sustainability side, so that was sort of the driver for us at the time. But I presume it obviously helps you as well, having that sort of long-term contract.
Yes, it does, and there's sort of a couple of ways of looking at that really. And very often when our commodities, when our grain leave the farm, we don't actually know where they go. We sort of trade through a grain trader or a broker, and it's nice for us to have the visibility down the other way down the chain and actually know where our produce is going to be used and be able to work with a company who again has the same sort of sustainability morals that we've got as well. And it's nice to see it go through the food chain. And also there's the economic benefit as well, that it's a sort of long-term relationship, and we can focus that we know a good proportion of our spring malting barley will be heading down into Suffolk.
Yeah, we've obviously walked the fields quite a number of times. I think
we have.
I don't know how many years now, but yeah, quite a few. But obviously there are always still variations from year to year. So how do you sort of cope with obviously the changing climate? 1 year from the next year, you don't know what the season's going to bring. So how do you cope with trying to make a consistent product every year?
So we've we're the Champagne region for malting barley, and interesting enough, the same soil type that runs across northern France and where the Champagne grapes are grown on, that seam of soil comes under the North Sea and sort of clips the North Norfolk coast as well. So we start at an advantage that we're on the really good soil type for producing good quality malting barley. Being the proximity to the sea, all of our spring malting barley is grown within 5 or 6 miles of the sea. So we're slightly cooler weather than growing inland. So in general terms, year on year we can produce as good a quality malting barley as anywhere in the country. So we've got those sort of factors at our disposal. But then we put a lot of investment into our sort of farming practices and soils, and every farming decision we make today, we look at that decision and what's that going to have on the sort of future impact of our soils, on the environment. And that actually just, it irons out a lot of the peaks and troughs of the weather. So the more we invest in our soils, in cover crops, in regenerative agriculture, the more resilient we are into producing quality year on year.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I guess when we first set this sort of relationship up, that Paul particularly was very enthusiastic about the idea of crop rotation, which sort of seemed to have gone out of fashion, I guess. And Paul was very keen to bring that back, and I guess that was really about improving the soil quality. I don't want to get into too much scientific detail, but if you would, in broad brush strokes, I guess what's the benefit of crop rotation?
So, again, just echo what I said, it's really the sort of decisions we make today, what long-term effect they have. And if we grow one crop too often in our soils, we then can run into problems with certain pests and certain diseases, which will affect the growing of that crop. So, we have what you've quite rightly described as our rotation, which is the practice of growing a different crop in the same field in different years. So we actually run a 6-year rotation at the moment, and that's growing both spring and winter malting barley. We grow wheat, we grow sugar beet for the homegrown sugar industry, potatoes, big grow of salad potatoes, and oilseed rape, and we'd rotate those crops over a 6-year period. We're actually now looking at probably extending that a little bit further, just to safeguard our good healthy soil. So yeah, it's sort of biodiversity, it's diversity of roots in the ground. So we don't want to be growing the same type of plant year on year, and it's jazzing up what we put in the ground to a certain extent.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned it there about sort of I know it's sort of root diversity, but I guess you also do quite a lot to sort of promote biodiversity of plants and animals on site as well. I know you do quite a lot in terms of the sort of hedgerow stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, we do. So all the farms that we farm on the Holkham estate are all in what we call a higher level scheme. So it's higher level stewardship. So that means that on the majority of our farms, we've got up to 15-20% of the land is taken out of sort of food production, and it's put into producing biodiversity. And we put as much effort and management into getting a good yield on biodiversity, and that can be the bees, the butterflies, the LBJs as we call them, the little brown jobs, so the small birds, right up to some of the bigger fauna. Yeah. So it's sort of striking the balance of holistic food production, but not at the cost of the environment. And as you say, we've got a lot of forestry, we've got a lot of hedgerows, so it's trying to create a diversity of habitats around the estate to suit the natural fauna which would naturally live in this part of the country.
Yeah. So I think I'm not sure how much you know, but we're doing this sort of series of collaboration beers this year. The first one we're doing is a collaboration brew with Thornbridge. I actually don't know if you know what the idea of collaboration brews are, but basically two breweries get together, we design a recipe together, and then we come out with this sort of one-off beer. So we're doing this beer with Thornbridge, and I think the idea this year is to sort of focus a bit more on talking about some of the sustainability aspects of what you do, and also about what we want to do in future. So barley's always been relatively easy for us, I guess, in terms of sustainability, because it is right on our doorstep. Even outside of the food miles and looking at that sort of thing, we genuinely grow some of the best malting barley in the world in this part of the country. So we would be slightly crazy not to use it. But I think this year we're also trying to take it a bit further. So trying to look at using more UK hops, and talking more about UK produce and UK raw materials. So that was the sort of focus for this collaboration. And then as we go through the next few collaborations, we'll focus on a different element every time. So the idea is that we will start to build up some promises that we will commit to doing certain things. So for this one, we're going to commit to starting to use more raw material. It's a bit hard on barley because we're already 100% UK barley, but we are going to sort of extend that out to hops as well, to start using more UK hops, because I think over the years we have started to use a lot more US varieties because they have different flavors and the flavors you don't generally get in UK varieties, but there is a place for UK varieties in hops as well. Do you think hops is anything you'd ever want to get involved in growing, James? Not to put you on the spot right now. Cast iron guarantee, James is growing hops.
Not going to move to Kent quite yet, so nothing I've had any experience with at all. But we never say never. So as an estate, we have sort of tentatively looked into probably grapes more than hops, and going back to that soil type that similar to the Champagne region, we have got some these quite shallow soils over chalk, which is suitable for growing growing grapes, but I don't know the husbandry of hops. So whether we are suitable or not, I'm not sure. But it's certainly something we're always up for a challenge, Fergus.
Well, if you ever do decide to grow any grapes, I'm sure we can help you out there as well.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Great. So I think that's probably it for today. But thanks very much, James, and thanks for coming on and having a chat with us.
No
Cheers.
problem. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.